In the second part of our lecture on Chapter 8, photosynthesis, we're going to focus on the physical properties of light energy and see how this light energy is going to be transformed into potential energy stored in those bonds of a sugar molecule. Now, we need to learn a little bit about light. So, light is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And all of the things that make up the electromagnetic spectrum travel as energy waves. Now, these things are separated based upon their wavelength. And a wavelength is the distance between two crests of waves. And so we go from things that are very, 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 very small, that have very short distances between the two crests of two waves, such as gamma rays or X-rays or ultraviolet light, to things that have a very, very, very long distance between the crests of two waves, like radio waves or infrared light. Now you notice right here in the center is what we call the visible portion or visible light as part of this electromagnetic spectrum. And the light energy has a phenomenon where the amount of energy increases, right, as wavelength decreases. So the shorter energy, the shorter wavelengths are going to have a little bit more energy than the long ones. Now, light energy travels as what are called photons. And what I want you to think of is these photons are little packets of light energy. But light energy is a kinetic form of energy. It is energy of motion as those photons of light are oscillating, right? And visible white light contains all of the colors or the spectrum here. Now, you've probably all heard before the name Roy G. Biv, which stands for the way that the colors of visible white light can be broken down if they're separated into their respective wavelengths: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The red wavelengths are the larger wavelengths, and the violet wavelengths are the shorter ones. So the way that light gets separated after it passes through a prism is the light is refracted or bent based upon its respective speed, and it's sent and when it's passed through a prism, the different wavelengths of light are separated. Now, you've all seen a rainbow before, and rainbows work the same way, except that instead of a glass prism, these wavelengths of white visible light are passing through raindrops, and this has the same effect where the colors are separated. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Now, why are leaves green? Well, this is an interesting question, and it causes us to reflect a little bit about these properties of photons of white light. The way that pigment molecules like chlorophyll work is a portion of the electromagnetic or the visible spectrum is absorbed by a pigment, while other wavelengths are going to be reflected. And so when we look at how chlorophyll works, as we'll see in just a moment when we see the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll, chlorophyll absorbs most of the energy in the violet, indigo, blue, yellow, orange, and red wavelengths. These are all pigment molecules that absorb those portions of the electromagnetic spectrum. The green wavelengths of light are reflected, and so as light strikes the chlorophyll in a chloroplast in the mesophyll of a leaf, it's the green wavelength of light that's reflected back, and then we perceive the color green. Now, these pigments like chlorophyll are really good at capturing this portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, this visible light energy. Now, as we'll see in just a moment, chlorophyll is not the only molecule or the only photosynthetic pigment that we find in most land plants. In fact, there are two different types of chlorophyll, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. If we look at the illustration here, we see the respective wavelengths of light from the long energy red ones to the very short high energy violet ones. Notice that chlorophyll A has the absorption spectrum that's mostly here in this range of about 360 to some 470 nanometers, right? The wavelengths. So this is all being absorbed. Now, what wavelengths of light are not absorbed are therefore then reflected, and this is why we see this greenish color being reflected back. Chlorophyll B has a very similar absorption spectrum. Again, leaving out the middle wavelengths here, these sort of some of the yellowishes and most of the greens, these wavelengths are all reflected back. Now, another photosynthetic pigment that we find in many plants are carotenoids. And as their name implies, these are sort of orange colored like a carrot, right? So look at the absorption spectrum for the carotenoid pigments, absorbing most of the wavelengths here from the green all the way back to the high energy violet ones, meaning that these colors are all reflected back. And if you think about why that makes the color orange, well, imagine mixing a red paint bucket with a yellow and orange paint bucket. Most of what you would have come out color-wise would be kind of that orangish color. Now, there are lots of other different accessory pigments, xanthophylls, carotenoids, etc. And it reminds us of why the leaves change color in the fall. So a typical deciduous plant like this maple leaf, when the leaves are functioning and photosynthetic, we mostly see the green because the dominant photosynthetic pigments are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. The other pigments are there helping the plant to maximize the use of all of those wavelengths of light. But as summer begins to change to fall, the plant is going to reabsorb and try to keep a hold of as much of that nitrogen and so forth as possible. So some of the chlorophyll molecules will be disassembled and sort of stored in the tree. What this leaves behind are the xanthophylls, carotenoids, and some of these other accessory pigments that cause the leaves colors to change from green to orange or yellow. And this is what's happening right here as we begin fall.